Welcome back up to the Joe's One Show. I'm your host, Joe's One, for today's episode here, and we are finally back. I know it's been a while, but I've had a ton of schoolwork. Specifically, had on last week 2 account exams on the same day and stuff, so we are finally back, and boys, there's a lot to talk about. The NFL has been completely crazy, so many stuff going on, so many major injuries, and so many different storylines going on here, and we're going to be touching on that a little bit here in this video, though I think most of it, I'm going to have to split this episode into 2 parts here just because of how much stuff NFL-wise we have to go over, and the whole MLB too. I know the NL wildcard race is honestly insane this year, and there was just so much to talk about. So let's get into it here, because this video here, we're going to mainly focus here on the MLB today. We'll talk a little NFL first here, so let's get into some NFL here. And first up here is the whole, some of the games yesterday trying to be very interesting, including the Denver Broncos at Miami Dolphins game, where the Dolphins, I think, broke the record for in the last 30 years, scoring wise. I think in the last 30 years, a team hadn't scored that many points as the Dolphins did until yesterday, with the final score being Dolphins 70 and the Broncos, I think it was 20. I don't think they even got an extra point. I think it was 20. Yeah. But the thing here I want to talk about is what a disaster if you are Denver. What on earth was that? What was that display? I'm sorry. Coming into the season, I thought Denver would be middle of the road, honestly. I thought it'd be definitely a lot better than last year, but I didn't think they would be, I thought maybe they'd sneak in as a 6 or 7 seed in the playoffs, but I didn't think anything like Super Bowl contender. Boy, well, we were wrong. This team is actually one of the worst teams of all time. I think they will most likely get Caleb Williams if they keep playing like this. That's who's going to get Caleb Williams, is the Broncos. This team is actually awful. Seriously, how do you give up 70 points? I guess the Dolphins, I get they have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, they have a good offense. I get that. And there's no denying the Dolphins have a really good offense. They do. It's a special offense, and it's always a fun one to watch, especially if Mike McDaniels being the offensive guru that he is. But that's no excuse to give up 70 points. The Broncos defense last year was one of the best in football for the first half of the year. Second half of the year, had some injuries, declined, whole disaster. They have Nathan Hackett as the head coach. Obviously, I understand Hackett was a jerk of a coach, but they weren't a bad defensive unit. Look at them now. They get up 70 points. 70. I think they scored 10 touchdowns. I saw some of those 10 touchdowns by the Dolphins in a game. How is that even possible? At the NFL level, it makes sense at high school. Trust me, I've seen it at the high school level because my high school, when I was there, my sophomore and junior years went 0-10 2 times in a row. Yeah, so I've seen 70 points get scored in a football game before. But that's high school. This is the NFL. This is the best of the best, we're talking about the most competitive football there is of all leagues of football. This is the most competitive one. And you get 70 scored on you. The Dolphins here, they put in their backups in the fourth quarter. And they still were scoring at will. Those were their backups. They didn't have Tua out there. They didn't have Tyreek out there. Honestly, I think actually, if I check correctly, I think Water was hurt the whole game and didn't even play. How on earth is that, happening here in my mind? This is just a complete disaster. And I think a lot of the blame has to be not only on this ownership group for the Broncos that's taken over and has completely screwed it up, even worse than it already was, and it was pretty screwed up to begin with. But some of the blame here too is going to be on Sean Payne. What on earth happened to him? Honestly, I think he may have been one of the most overrated coaches now. Honestly. This is going to be a massive black spot in his career. Here's my opinion on it. Do I think Russell Wilson's fully at fault for this? No, I think he's one of the only things that's actually been somewhat working for this team. I don't think Russell Wilson is anywhere close to the Broncos' problems. I think the problems here lie not only in management, but I think it relies specifically on coaching too. And I think this whole loss, I think this is on Sean Payne. I don't think he's a good head coach right now. What he has done in Denver is nothing but making excuses and causing drama. And it is biting them so hard that they're now 0-3. They have lost multiple winning games. They blew a massive lead against the Commanders last week. This week they get 70 scored on them by the Dolphins. Week 1, they lose a winnable game against the Raiders, and if you didn't know, the Raiders aren't very good. Trust me. We all watched them last night get pretty much destroyed by the Steelers offense, who have been struggling to this season. And by struggling, honestly, that's putting it mildly on how bad the Steelers offense had been until last night. Like, just saying here, like, this is, this whole team is a disaster in my mind here. And honestly, I think a lot of it is more on management. I don't think Russell Wilson's the main issue here. Am I saying Russell Wilson's back to his form? No, he does not like anything like he did in previous years. And I still don't get the whole fall off that we saw last year and this year. He's definitely better. I think that's true. But clearly, it's something going on coaching wise. I don't think, like, it's just, there's not many things you can answer to this. Like, it's not that bad of a team on paper. Like, it's not the worst team in the NFL on paper, for sure. But in real life, it is one of the worst, if not the worst. So you gotta now wonder, what exactly is going on? I don't think the general manager there has been doing a good job. The Russell Wilson trade, in theory, was a good idea. If you look back on it, they had a lot of promise last year. It looked like, really, they were in a right position, and they just looked like a quarterback away. They, obviously, of course, hired Nathaniel Hackett because they're betting on getting Aaron Rodgers from a trade from the Packers. Obviously, that doesn't happen. They go plan B in Russell Wilson, which also, I think, another good option. I think Russell Wilson was a good quarterback, especially coming into that offseason. He was a very good quarterback, and it was shocking that Seattle was going to trade him. But you just look at all these decisions they've made, too. Like, it's just, they traded Bradley Chubb for a first-round pick, which, honestly, Chubb probably wasn't signing. It made sense. And Miami, of course, was looking for a big-time pass rusher, and they got one in Chubb. Like, it sucks losing Chubb, but you're going to get a first-round pick. Maybe you can get some. This is a nice, deep draft, especially defensive line. Maybe you get something here, Get some more young blood into the Broncos organization. They then trade that pick for a head coach. Not only just the first-round pick, mind you, the second one as well. They traded a second-round pick and a first for a head coach. That is a joke. I'm sorry, but what even compels you to think, yeah, that's a good idea here to trade our draft picks for a head coach? And I'll be honest with you, Sean Payne is not worth any draft picks. He is not that kind of coach that you have to trade draft picks to get him. I don't think there were only, on my mind, honestly, there's only a couple coaches I think you could even consider doing that for it, let alone actually doing it. And honestly, those three coaches, in my mind, are the top three in the NFL. Belichick, Reed, and Tomlin. Those are the only three, honestly, that I would ever even consider trading a draft pick for. And let alone, if I was even trading a draft pick for them, it'd be like a third or a fourth, at the most. Head coaches are not worth draft picks. You know how you get a good head coach, Hill? You go out and you look at the new, exciting talent. Because normally, you'll find something good. Look at the Giants, what they did with Brian Vrabel last year. They got a great head coach because they looked for young, innovative talent. And they found a guy. Look at the Dolphins. The aforementioned Dolphins who beat this team by 70 points this week. They had Mike McDaniels from the 49ers who ran a very hard offense in San Fran. Look where they are now. They just scored 70 points on the Broncos. Let's look at all this. There's just so many great young coaches in the league. And there's some great coordinators too, like DeMeco Moore. Another guy, he's a first-year coach right now, but honestly, I've been very impressed by him so far. Let's be real, the Texans don't have that good of a talent roster-wise. They did finally get their franchise quarterback in Stroud, it seems, and of course, Williamson too. It's a big help. And you know what? They've had some great games this week. They somehow demolished the Jaguars, who everyone thought would be the kings of the AFC South. They beat the crap out of them. Look at the Colts, Shane Steichen. Another good head coach, first-year coach. It's done insanely well so far, honestly. I've been very impressed by Shane Steichen. Look at how he's developed Anthony Richardson already to this point. I said when coming into the draft for Anthony Richardson, I thought it was highly unlikely that he would turn into a very good quarterback. And obviously still, just 2 weeks in the season, so we can't really judge completely yet. Obviously, we got to wait a little longer once we get to the second year of him. But what we've seen so far is a pretty talented quarterback, and the guy who actually, honestly, in my mind, it looks like he's actually been developed correctly and is actually turning into what his raw attributes can make him into. He's in the right direction, and he's looked well. And honestly, the Colts have won games because of that. And it's been good coaching, too. Like, he's had guys, role players, who are normally bench guys, come up and make the big plays and win them games. For example, Garner Minshew this week against the Jags. It's not against the Jags. Who was he playing? I'm trying to remember who they called. Oh, the Ravens. Yeah, sorry. Got mixed up with the Texans there. My bad. But he played Ravens. He played a good game for the most part, other than the whole safe. He did, of course, have a safety there. He got in the back there, so like overall, he had a decent game. And you know what? I just look at some of these young head coaches. Oh, also Jonathan Gannon too, another guy. I forgot about him too. Honestly, Arizona's 1-2, but they could easily be 3-0. Like they were in both of the games. Like they were in it. All 3 games they've been in it this year and could have won all 3 games. Honestly, if they have Kyler Murray, they're 3-0 right now. I legitimately believe that. Of course, Josh Dobbs done a great job there as well. I think actually he's really coming to clutch for the Cardinals. But yeah, if you look at these teams and these young head coaches, they've been phenomenal. And the Broncos, one of the other teams that, of course, has had a new head coach, and they decided to get the big one and trade all the draft picks for it. Guess what? Guess which one's doing the worst right now? Out of all the new head coaches in the NFL, guess which one's doing the worst? The one that they traded a first-round pick for, and a second-round pick. And guess what you could have got with that pick? Because that's the Saints, they got that first-round pick. They got Brian Brees, who hasn't played much so far, but on paper, he looks like he can be a very good defensive tackle in the NFL. At an area the Broncos have desperate need for. If you just look at what has happened here, honestly, this is a complete disaster. And honestly, I can make a whole video on this, and it can be 20 minutes long, about every single thing the Broncos have done that has screwed up the organization even more. And honestly, if you guys see, I told you guys so much football stuff, it's going to take up a whole episode. And I want to get to the MLB stuff here. Like, you see, we're to the 12-minute point here, and I've only talked about the Broncos and Dolphins game. And I haven't even talked about the Dolphins and how it looks for them. I've only talked about the Broncos. Like, that tells you how much stuff's going on here, too. So, obviously, I'm going to split the rest of this into a different video football-wise, but this is the big one I want to talk about just because it's been a complete disaster at this point here. And just, honestly, I didn't even think it was possible to get 70 in the NFL in this day and age. But, hey, like, even the Browns have never done that. The Browns, honestly, have been one of the worst teams ever. Multiple years, like 2017, 2016, 1-15, 0-16, you know that whole thing. Even they didn't get up 70 points, and that team was probably the worst one I've ever seen ever play football. And I'm not even kidding. That's the worst one. That shows you how bad it is in Denver right now. It's just, and there's not much you can really do. Like, if I was them, honestly, I would tear it completely down. Every single thing, honestly. And Sean Payne, too. I know it's his first deal, but he just keeps making excuses for himself. He's not actually responding to issues. He's just causing more drama. I think he's part of your problem. And I think he needs to be cut out of it completely. Yeah, I know. I know he's a good coach in New Orleans. He was a good coach. But honestly, Dennis Allen is looking pretty good, too, right now, this year for New Orleans. And you're starting to wonder here, how much of New Orleans' success is really on Peyton, and how much is it on the other players? Say like Breeze, Michael Thomas, Cam Jordan, and all the other guys who have played for New Orleans. How much of it is really on Sean Payne compared to the players and what they could actually do on the field? Because I'm starting to lean here to more, it was more the players that made Sean Payne the coach he is, not Sean Payne. But that's it. Let's leave it here for the football stuff, and let's get into the more exciting stuff here, at least in my mind, with baseball here, with the wild card races. It is getting very interesting here, and I'm just pulling up on my phone here all the teams, but things have got very interesting in both the AL West in that whole division race, but in the NL wild card race as well, with the 2 and the 3 spots. So let's get into it here. For the most part, let's get the standings up here. Wi-Fi wants to be a little slow today, so we'll see what'll happen if I can actually get it here quick. There we go. Alright, so let's talk here first. Honestly, I want to do the American League first, too. So let's talk here about the AL West. This is a very interesting race here, as we right now have 3 different teams here in the gauntlet here for this division crown, with about 6 games left here. So in first place here we have the Texas Rangers. Second place is the Astros. And in third place is the Mariners. And they're very close behind. Astros are 2.5 games back off the Rangers, and Mariners are 3 games back off. So honestly, all 3 teams here can honestly make a move and win to this point. All 3 are in a position where they can win the West pretty much here in these last 6 games. But looking here at the schedules here, let's look here, just see what we got. And of course, my internet wants to be slow for some reason. Here we go. So the Rangers here have the Angels and the Mariners, which is a very interesting matchup here for them. Astros-wise, here they have the Mariners and the Diamondbacks as their last series. So here it's very interesting to point that the Mariners play both these teams. If the Mariners do well in both of these, they can easily win this division here. Astros, I think, have the easiest schedule out of the 3 here as they get the Royals and then the Mariners. And the Rangers get the Angels and then the Mariners. So honestly, this can go either way now. This is kind of honestly like it's like picking the lottery right now. Who's going to win this division? It just keeps going back and forth. One day it's the Rangers, one day it's the Astros, one day it's the Mariners. But honestly, looking at the schedule wise and what I do think, I think the Astros have the easiest path to win this, just due to the fact they have 3 games against the Royals. I would think they would sweep them, but they have struggled against some bad teams as of late. So therein lies your question with the Astros. Can they beat a bad team like the Royals? Because they have struggles, and I think actually it was against the Royals too earlier. So you gotta ask the question here, can they really beat them? That's a question that's gotta be asked. Mariners-wise, I think they have the best opportunity here because they get both the Astros and the Rangers in series. However, the thing I will say here for that is a massive make or break. If you play well against both the teams, you probably win the division. If you play crap against both those teams, you're probably not going to win the division. And there's a chance, too, you may not make the wild card as they are a half game out. So pretty much here, you are fighting here for a wild card spot. And I think the Mariners, they got to clutch up here on quick because they got 2 massive series. I think right now, if I'm the Mariners, they have the hardest path to win that division, just looking at the schedule. However, it's the most simplest because the last 2 series they have are against the top 2 teams in the Astros and the Rangers. So they have the most simplest, yet the most hardest in my mind to make it, yet they have the most straightforward loop into making it as well, just due to the way their schedule is built out here, pretty much. But just looking at this right now here, I think, honestly, schedule-wise, I'm going to put my faith in the Astros here. I'm going to say the Astros are going to take up here. Because I think the Mariners are going to get hot, and I think they're going to do well against Texas. Betting on Texas, the Texas Rangers in September historically is not a good thing to do, as they have been very well known for blowing series leads in the past. They've been known for like blowing division leads and then not even making the playoffs. And it always was starting earlier. They have a lot of injuries. And I think the Mariners series, I think the Mariners are really going to make or break what happens in this division. Whether it's the Rangers winning, the Astros winning, or the Mariners winning, it lies within what happens to the Mariners here. I think the Mariners, in my idea here, it seems like to me, they kind of control their own destiny. Because they have 6 games against the teams that they have 6 games against the 2 teams they need to beat. If they can win both series, that probably puts them in the wild card. If they can sweep at least one and get 2 out of 3 of the other one, they can probably win the division. So that's where it lies, they do control their own fate. They can definitely get where they want to be. And honestly, in my mind here, I still going to go, I think the Astros win here. I just think the whole Kansas City Royals, them having to play the Royals, is going to help them big time, and that's going to be a big boost to get them in. Because I think they'll do well against the Mariners. I think they'll probably lose 2 or 3 to the Mariners, but I think they can sweep the Royals and just get in. I think the Rangers will struggle against the Mariners for sure. I think the Angels could at least take 1 from them, and I think that can easily give Texas at least the 2nd spot. But the way I see this right now, playing out, I think here, Astros are going to win the AL West. And then the Texans, I think here, are going to make the wild card. So I am going to bet with the Rangers rather than bet against them like historically you would, because you know how they normally tend to do in these situations. So I do feel that the Mariners are going to break rather than make it to this point. I think the Mariners have had a great season. It's been a great run, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs here. Just because they have two very tough opponents coming up in both Houston and Seattle. But they do, of course, have the most linear path to winning that division now. But it's a very interesting one here, of course. We all know AL West is locked in. That's going to be the Orioles. They've been dominant this year and are closing in on 100 wins, which would be awesome to see for them, as they've done. This is a fun team to watch, honestly. And of course, the Twins as well have also clinched their division. Of course, it's the worst division in all of baseball, but they have clinched it, and they are set in at the playoff spot here for Minnesota, so they are finally in for sure. Looking at the wild card, Tampa Bay is locked in now at this point. They have 95 wins. They're not going to be forced out. They are locked in at the one wild card spot. The other two here are Blue Jays and Astros. I think Astros, obviously, they said Astros going to win, so I think the Rangers take the Astros spot there at the third wild card. And I do think the Blue Jays will get that second wild card spot. I think they're very close to clinching it, and I think they will heal very soon to this point here. But now, moving on to the National League, where all the fun begins here. Let's get into this, because this one is the interesting one. So, pretty much right now, all the division leaders have been secured. We know who they're going to be. The NL East, obviously, is the Braves. NL West, obviously, is the Dodgers. And NL Central is, a lot of people would have thought possibly could have been, and obviously me too, I kind of felt that's probably what's going to happen, is the Milwaukee Brewers in that third spot there. Now, the wild card, the fourth spot is very simple. It's pretty much already locked in, as the Phillies will take that fourth spot. They're not officially locked in yet, but I'd be very surprised if they somehow miss the playoffs, barring, say, the Pirates doing something. Which, looking at how they've been playing recently against wildcard teams, that probably can actually happen, because we saw what they did to the Reds and the Cubs this whole week here. And they got now the Marlins and the Phillies, who are also in there as well, so it makes things very interesting, to say at least at this point here. But right now here, the 2 and the 3 are very much open play. As of the moment here, the Diamondbacks and the Cubs have control of those two spots. However, Miami is 1 game back, Cincinnati is 2.5 games back, and the Padres technically are not eliminated to this point, but they are 5.5 back, and I do not think the Padres will get to that spot. I think they're not making the playoffs, and it's going to be a massive disappointment for them, as we all thought they would be the NL West leaders, or at least be a wildcard team. However, they are not to this point, and I doubt that their high-end talent can save them from this point here. So, pretty much to say, let's eliminate the Padres right off the bat, because there's no way they're making back from 5 games, like 5 games back in 6 more games. I don't think that's possible, barring some sort of miracle, and I doubt a miracle happens, knowing San Diego's luck. Now, moving on here, I think the Diamondbacks here, I'm confident that they are going to get that second spot. I think they've played well. They've had some good games as of late here. They had some struggles early on, but they have bounced back for the most part here. And I do expect them to do well to this point here. But the third spot is the interesting one. I think the Cubs could get it. I think the Cubs are one of the favorites to get it. And I do think they will get it. I think they'll sneak in just barely to this point. Obviously, we gotta look at the records here, but the schedule, but oh, I see. Ooh. They got the Braves and the Brewers here. So that is interesting to say the least here. Oh, my bullets just walked by. Say hi to Danny, everybody. Hi, Danny. So, pretty much I got the Braves and the Brewers here. So that is a rough schedule for them to look at. I think the Brewers they can do well against, but the Braves will be the true question mark in there at that point. For the Marlins, they have the Mets and the Pirates. So obviously you would think this is the easiest one to get away with. However, the problem is, if you look at the Pirates, as of recent, they have been a very hot team to begin with, and have been pretty much killing both the Cubs and the Reds. At least not killing, but taking big shots at their wild card and playoff hopes to this point. And it looks like this obviously can continue here. if they continue to play the way they are, which I do think they will, as these young guys keep showing out for the Pirates, as that whole future for the Pirates franchise does start to come out. That's your big question mark. I'm not worried about the Mets against the Marlins. I think the Marlins will be fine there. I think they'll take care of the job with the Mets and at least take 2 out of 3, if not all 3. However, your question here lies within the Pirates. What Pirates team are you getting? Are you getting the crappy one that's not that good? Or are you getting the one as of recent that has been pretty much killing teams' playoff chances? Because you're getting the recent one, I don't think you have a good chance at this point. I think it's going to be a little like, to that point. I don't know exactly what you get. And of course, the third team here we got to look at here is the Cincinnati Reds. Of course, taking off that brutal loss after being up 9-0 against the Pirates and then somehow blowing it, which, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think was actually possible, but here we are. It is actually possible, apparently. So, yeah. But they have 2 games here against the Guardians, and then 3 against the Cardinals to end off their season. The Guardians one will be interesting. I think that can go either way. Just knowing Cleveland's very streaky on and off team. But like the Pirates, they have been ruining AL teams' playoff hopes to this point. So that's another team to be very dangerous of to this point. So looking at it here in my perspective here, I think honestly the third one goes to Miami. It's going to be close, and I think it'll be about 1 game off the Cubs. I think the Cubs just have too tough a schedule with the Braves. I think the Braves knock them out here. For the most part, I think the Marlins, they'll get in because of Miami. And I think because they're playing the Mets, I think they'll struggle against the Pirates. But I think the Mets series will propel them to that third spot here. And I just think the Cubs have a very rough schedule with both the Braves and the Brewers back-to-back. That's a brutal schedule, especially for them needing to make the playoffs here. And I think the Reds here too. The Guardians have been pretty much playoff heartbreakers here within the last week. They struggled pretty bad against the Pirates for the most part. I expect there to be a split in the Guardians series, but I expect the Cardinals to at least play off a little bit and try to get one of their division competitors out of the playoffs here. I do expect that here. So I'm going to say here, for my wildcard prediction here, Phillies obviously they would have it. They're going to be in. I think the Diamondbacks will be in. I think they played well. I think they continue to play well. I think they win. I think the third spot goes to Miami Marlins in a close battle. But I say they get 1 from the Pirates, and that's the one that gets them in. But that pretty much does it here for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want more baseball content, and hopefully I guess more football ones out to you later here. But if you guys enjoyed it, please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for more. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.